We're going to spend a few minutes talking about various swine breeds here. Pigs are something that are near and dear to my heart. We're going to go ahead and start with the Yorkshire. So the Yorkshire, if we look at them and try to identify them from other breeds, they're all white and they have large erect ears. There are three different breeds of white pigs. Yorkshires are the only ones that have erect ears. In this case, this is a sow. We can tell that. We can tell that she's got a litter on her right now. Her underline is full of milk. But this is a pretty good example of a Yorkshire sow, and this would be a typical Yorkshire female. If we talk about some of the other stuff with Yorkshires, they are the #1 breed in the U.S., partially because of that, and partially because of their maternal ability. They are known as the mother breed. Being a maternal type breed means that they're good moms. They tend to have larger litters. They do a really good job of nursing them, of raising them. The offspring have good survivability. So they're just all around good mothers. And they're kind of the base stock or base female that are used in a lot of crossbred operations because of these maternal type traits that they have. The other thing with them is they're well balanced and they're eye appealing. So we see them used quite a bit in crossbreeds for show pigs. So that is a Yorkshire. Next breed we're going to talk about is a Hampshire. Pretty easy to distinguish from the Yorkshire in that they are all black except for a white belt that extends from one foot all the way up over their shoulders down to the other foot. In order to be a purebred Hampshire, this white belt has to be continuous from one foot all the way over to the other. If we see where the black encroaches down and pinches that off, it's technically not registerable as a purebred. The other thing that we should notice is that he has erect ears. So for a Hampshire, black with a white belt, goes all the way over, and they have erect ears. So what are Hampshires good for? They're known for their lean, muscular carcass. Okay, there's not a whole lot of, as a purebred, not a whole lot of fat on them, and they tend to be pretty heavily muscled. Oftentimes, Hampshires are crossed with Yorkshire sows to produce what we'd call a blue butt. A blue butt is a crossbred that we see in quite a few shows as market hogs, and we get some of that hybrid vigor going on where they get the best from the Hampshire world, they get the best from the Yorkshire world, and they're called blue butts because they get these blue splotches, which is basically white and black hairs intermixed and spots on the skin intermixed, and it gives the appearance of being a blue butt. But back to the Hampshire. As a purebred, they are the slowest growing of the most common breeds. For a Yorkshire, it's not uncommon to find one that's 145 to 150, 155 days from birth to weighing 250 pounds. A Hampshire is probably going to be upwards of 160 days. So they take significantly longer to get up to a market weight. The other issue with them as a purebred is they tend to have some structural issues. And if we look at this Hampshire right here, we can see he's fairly straight in his hocks. The other thing that we often see is they tend to be a little straight in their shoulders, so their shoulder blades don't set right, which moves their front feet forward a little bit and makes it a little painful for them to walk. So as a purebred, they do have a couple of challenges, but their musculature and their leanness allows us to use them quite a bit in crossbreeding operations. Next is going to be my favorite, the Duroc. As we can see here, Durocs are red and they have floppy ears. Okay? So the red, medium size, floppy ears. They can be kind of a lighter red all the way up to a real deep, dark, almost a brownish red. But they are red, solid red, and they have floppy ears. Durocs are very heavily muscled, and even though we don't typically talk marbling in pigs, they have well marbled carcasses. Marbling is the intermuscular specks of fat that create some leanness, create some flavor, some juiciness in meat. Of the purebred breeds, Durocs are the fastest growing. It's not uncommon to find a Duroc that'll reach 250 pounds in about 135 to 140 days from the time they are born. Now, one challenge in working with Durocs is the boars tend to have a higher libido than a lot of the other breeds. The boars know that their job is to breed the sows and do not get in their way. I had a Duroc boar that I showed back when I was in high school. Super calm, and he's pretty much a puppy dog in the pen. We got him into the show ring, and he flipped a switch, started trying to attack me, started trying to attack the judge. For the people watching the show, it was kind of entertaining, but to be perfectly honest, for me, it was a little bit unnerving. So just something to keep in mind if you're ever working with Durocs. I don't know if it's that red-headed temper that everyone talks about or not, but they do tend to have a bit of an attitude from time to time. Next on our list is a Berkshire. So Berkshires are black with 6 white points. 6 white points is their face or their nose, their 4 feet, and their tail. So that's how we would distinguish them. And at this point, we've probably noticed something about all of the pigs whose name ends in shire. They all have erect ears, or ears that stick up. So that's something to keep in mind. If you see shire in the name, they should have erect ears. So Berkshires, black body, 6 white points, face, 4 legs, and their tail. Berkshires are known for their thick, heavily marbled carcass. And if we look at this guy, we can see just how thick he is. We can see how much muscle there is here in the hand. We can see how he breaks off his loin, how deep-sided he is. He's got big shoulders. That's a typical Berkshire. And they're known for carcass quality, and because of that, they are preferred by some cultures, such as the Japanese. Just how the Japanese like their Kobe beef, Berkshire meat tends to have some of those same qualities of that. So it's something that's preferred by them. Next up is the Chester White. We can see this is another white pig, but the one thing we should notice here is the ears. These ones have medium-sized floppy ears, but otherwise they're all white. We can see this one a little bit shallower bodied than the other one. Granted, this one is a gilt, the other one was a sow, but that is something that's typical. Chester Whites are good females, good mothers, and we use them a lot in maternal crosses for what we call white line F1 females. So that might be a Yorkshire Chester cross, Yorkshire Chester Landrace, but some of the white breeds of pigs tend to be better mothers, so we use them in crosses quite a bit. Next up is the Landrace. We can see they look similar to the Chester, except they have large floppy ears. I've heard people refer to them as the albino elephants. They lots of times when they walk, they actually flip their head side to side so that their ears move out away from their face enough that they can see where they're going and see what's around them. Good mothers, and they're known for their prolificacy or for having large litters. It's not uncommon for a landrace sow to have a litter of 12 to 14 babies. You probably notice in the picture it looks fairly long. Landrace can actually have an extra set of ribs. Most pigs have 12. Landraces sometimes have 13 pairs of ribs, which makes them real long-bodied, allows them to carry larger litters. And again, they're used in the maternal crosses for the F1 females, just like the Chesters, just like the Yorkshires. And we already talked about this, good milkers, capable of rearing large litters. Next on our list is a Pietrin. These originated from Germany, or in Germany, and they tend to be whitish pink with gray to black spots that cover the majority of the body. They also have erect ears. And this picture doesn't quite do it justice, but these guys tend to be the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of the pig world. They can actually be double muscled. They can have that gene for double muscling, and they're extremely heavily muscled and extremely lean. When I was in high school, the Pietrins were what we started breeding everything to, because at that time we wanted great big pork chops, great big hams, and we wanted as little fat as possible. Now, a couple years down the road, we realized that that meat wasn't the most tender, wasn't the most flavorful, so we've kind of backed off on that a little bit, but we still see Pietrin in quite a few what we might call exotic crosses. Used as boars in exotic crosses, we mentioned, they are not good as purebreds. Okay, because this double muscling gene as well as the fact that they tend to be carriers or positive for the stress gene or the halothane gene, the sows tend to struggle a little bit at farrowing. What the stress gene does to them, if they possess that, if they get stressed out or worked up, they can actually fall over dead from a heart attack. Farrowing is fairly stressful, so we really have to be careful if using them as a purebred. So they're mostly used in crosses to get some of that extra muscle. Next up is a spot. It used to be called the spotted Poland China, and then the name kind of changed. They're white and black, spotted, floppy ears. We don't see them super often as purebreds, but they are out there. A few other breeds you may run into. Up here on the top is the Hereford. These are actually increasing in popularity, and some people have done a really good job of breeding them and making some quality Herefords. It used to be that quality-wise was way, way down on these guys, so we didn't see a whole lot of them. They are termed a heritage breed by some people just because it's something that used to be used quite a bit. And you don't see too many of these. This would be a Tamworth. They tend to be tall but super, super skinny, not have a whole lot of meat or muscle to them, which is why we do not use them very often. But just wanted to show you that because that is another red breed of pig. They also tend to have this real elongated, kind of skinny face. So those are some of the more common breeds of pigs.